hollow. Independent indigo, digging in a form. There's power in the pen, the world watches me perform. Without a helping hand, made a plan to beat the odds. Mama birthed a man, turned myself to a god. Tyler became creator, the future was looking odd. Basquiat off the top, other brothers are just facades. Always more to say.
I want to first thank everybody for all the love that I received for the clip of my new song, Man to a God. This is going to be featured on my next album, Son of Gemini Part 2. If you are interested in supporting me, my music, if you're already, a patron or take any of my, classes, tap in with me. There are going to be special deals and bundles available. There will be more info coming soon, so you can pre-order the album. What's going on, world? It's your boy Gemini Brown here, back with another episode of Nalo Kicking Knowledge. Today, we'll be talking about an important topic, one of those look yourself in the mirror type of thing. Things you may do, characteristic traits you may exhibit that make you unattractive. We'll be discussing all 12 signs, so tune in. Let's get into it. We are now within Taurus season. Taurus is a Venus ruled sign. It corresponds to the second house. Things we value in life, and on a deeper level, how the things we value in life or the values we are taught affect our self-worth, which then opposite to the second house, eighth house, gives insight to the depths of intimacy that we can experience. Needless to say, there's a lot that can be assessed throughout the whole chart. But what we're going to do here today is go through the signs and apply it to your Venus sign. But at this level of astrology, we know that its multiple combinations can be contributing to different things. Okay, so Venus in Gemini is similar to, but will differ in experience versus a Venus in the third in another sign, who's the ruler of that sign may be in that house with that planet, which will give, different expressions. So we want to just be aware of when we have planets in a sign, the natural tendencies that the sign exhibits. And it's our job to elevate the expression of that energy, not be on autopilot or go through the unconscious, sometimes low vibrational effects of the energy, which ultimately is tied to ego. And, many of you who take classes with me and have read my book, Astrology of the Matrix, know I look at astrology at 3 different levels. You have the more physical, material, you have the soul level, and you have the spiritual level. And that's all going to influence your type of expression of the energy. So we could have 2 people born the same day, same year, 2 different times, raised in 2 different places that express the energies in 2 different ways. One could be expressing at a more spiritual level, which isn't necessarily, it's not a better thing. It just kind of is what it's more wise per se, or aware, key thing, more aware than at the more material or personality level. All right, check out my book, Astrology of the Matrix. Email me, check out my website for classes and courses. So getting into it, starting with Aries. And keep in mind, guys, I could actually do a video on each sign by itself. So here I'm just going to say enough to stimulate some thought. And like I said, it's an accountability thing. If you have Aries energy, you may want to look at which one of your planets, even if it's outside of Venus, can be contributed to you exhibiting this. So this is a lot to learn here. All right. So Aries, Venus and Aries, things you do that make you unattractive. And that is being unwilling to compromise, which can come in a form of Aries wanting to dominate the relationship. If the Venus and the Mercury are in some type of aspect, or this can cause, that domination or directness from an intellectual level. And if you mix in other planets like Mars, that'll be more in a direct, aggressive way. Jupiter, through your beliefs. So when Aries is too domineering, they lose balance or are unable to connect with the opposite sign. And this can lead to an alienation. So in the Venus sense, Venus and Aries, say this is in a social house 5, 7, 11, may date a lot. They may indirectly get not ghosted, but not called back for a second or third date after someone kind of, gets a whiff of how they are. They may just back away. Aries energy, especially if you have other fiery energy, and then for context, if you're a woman, if you're raised in a particular culture, going back to Venus and values, things like that, this can be an issue, okay? But you just ultimately want to be conscious of compromise and how you express your views or your individuality. You want to do this in an inspirational way, not a domineering way. Like, oh, I'm projecting onto you all of my ego. No, ultimately that makes people not want to be around Aries or build with them. And what I'm pointing out to you here is that the opposite end, Libra, becomes really important, okay? So I want to kind of give this insight. I have an older sister who's in Aries. I have other Aries in my life. I understand this energy. Aries are lovers. Aries are attractors as well. Like, it's not hard for Aries to attract. And when they are unable to attract, so when you find an Aries that's just not fulfilled, particularly in the realms of like a partnership, or it's just like, oh, no one's good enough. That's an Aries that is very imbalanced. They've lost hold of Venus and the ability to attract. And I see this a lot with, like I said, very fiery people. And then, this could be woman or man. Taurus. And this is a really interesting one. I'm going to go back to what I was saying about personality, or the personality level or the material level. Taurus is a money-driven, security-driven sign. That's what it deals with, the world, the senses, all that good jazz. The key is not to get lost there, but to illuminate yourself, to, have the correct vision, good discernment of what to intake, what to cultivate, all of that. Where Taurus becomes unattractive is when they have no sense of that, no sense of value. And this can come in a myriad of ways. So I want to say this in a very direct way, but not mean it too literal. But if you're born with certain Taurus energy, particularly Taurus rising, you shouldn't be broke in life. If you are broke in life, the thing is not about being money driven or materialistic. Spiritual teachers like myself and others are examples that spiritual enlightenment or piousness doesn't equate towards scarcity. No, it's all within your mind. It's all about how you cultivate the abundance. So with second house or Taurus energy, particularly Venus here in Taurus, if you are not financially astute, man or woman, energetically, whoever's interacting with you may not feel like, oh, I can build with this person or achieve a certain stability. At a deeper level, that's the vibration that Taurus thrives in. Stability, nourishment, hence why the moon is exalted here. Abundance of value and things around. Man or woman, no matter how you look, this is more than what's in your bank account. It's your resourcefulness. All the earth signs have a hint of that, but Taurus's resourcefulness comes from what they can cultivate. So keep that in mind. So in a very nice way, Taurus, I guess, in this world, men, Venus and Taurus, I know this for a lot of Venus and Taurus men, they just won't date if they're not in the financial situation they want to be in, because their idea of relationships goes with that and luxury and experiencing that. So there can be instances where a person is like, well, I don't care about any of that, but I still want love. Yeah, that's cool, but you just got to be aware of how you're coming off to others. It's like, hey, especially in this time space period. Okay, so, and I'll give one more anecdote. Like in a past sense, this type of value was attached to the family and still is. So if you come from a good family, that also, let's say, buys you more time or can give you an advantage in terms of having value or being able to build that. So keep that in mind. Gemini. I get straight to the chase here, y'all. This is for all my Geminis out there. This is the secret. This is about elevation, getting to that next level. It ain't easy. But Gemini, when you are too inconsistent, you become unattractive. And the key thing, I point this out to people all the time, if you really do the knowledge, Geminis are capable of loyalty. They are capable of long-term relationships. They just require what they require, which at the base is stimulation. Now, the Gemini who fancies themselves chasing stimulation in various directions, particularly in the relational sense, is working against themselves. So I'm letting all my Geminis know, it'd be in your best interest to develop and embrace consistency, because think about it. I'll give you a hint. What's next to it? Cancer. Emotional stability. If you, in relationships, if you are able to provide that for another, consistency and building, you eventually tap into some emotional security and stability, which is actually quite rewarding and which can lead to various other levels of stimulation and fulfillment. Now, here's the thing. I am Gemini, of course. We can get away with our flighty shit. There's, like, as a Gemini sun, there are going to be Venus and Gemini people who we're really talking about here that are like, well, I'm inconsistent or I'm flighty too, so I'm cool with them being like that. But we got to look in the long run. Two people being like that lead to anything? When time goes by, is anything developing? What is, being stabilized? And the beauty of like other signs is you see that, like, going back to values, other people may have different relationship goals, which require consistency building and more emotional intimacy. So Gemini, if like Venus and Geminis or Gemini types, give yourself that chance, okay? And just know what's for you. Now, Aries was dominating in an ego way, in a self way, my way or the highway kind of vibe. Cancer, cardinal water, can be emotionally overwhelming. And if their particular Venus or moon isn't aspected well or has themes of emotional instability, that's naturally going to creep its way into partnerships, and others are going to see more of that. Even if you don't show that much in the outside world, those who are attracted to you will see that. So I want to say here that, like, just keeping it real, a lot of women complain about Cancer men. And a lot of it is just like, some deals with them being manipulative, others deal with just wanting to be mothered or through time, too much emotional dependence upon the partner, things of that nature. So just like this whole video, it is about self-awareness, y'all. Be self-aware. So your intention may not be harmful, or you may not mean to be that way, but it comes across like, this is too much for me. It's an interesting thing in life that we just find the more you experience that, like, okay, you're not a bad person. You're just not my person or the type of person for me. And I think as you get older, you get more into yourself, you understand what is for you. And then what I try to teach others, like with astrology, if you may have like Neptune aspects, is not falling too much for particular ideals, knowing how to gauge it, finding the reality within it. It's a delicate process for sure. So Cancer, this is about being emotionally aware, for real. And as you build with people, you just want to be mindful of how others are seeing you. And, even when you're feeling emotional, doing things that may leave a stain with that person forever. Y'all know what the fuck I'm talking about. Moving on to Leo. Interesting one. I'm going to say this because like I said, I could go in so many different directions, but I'm going to spin it to you like this. A Leo type, this could be, it's particularly Venus and Leo. And when you're not confident, it's very unattractive. Your whole life force or ego is contingent on you being confident in some way and developing the I rule. I have the right to be this way, but in a balanced way. But on a serious note, think of this sign deals with creativity. They want to create a partner or someone who can creatively stimulate them. So think about how you have to embody that energy to have it mirrored back to you. So you may not be a traditional creative, but you're entrepreneurially creative, which can definitely allow the universe to bring someone to you that complements it like so well. But an unconfident Leo type, someone who's unsure of themselves. And I could even say this for it all. We could go with houses on this, but depending on what house your Venus is in and all of that, you shouldn't, and what sign, of course, it's unattractive to poke or criticize yourself. There are people who are like, I'm going to criticize myself so no one else can do it. Yeah, that's cool. But like I said, if you're embodying a certain type of energy, the people attracted to you are attracted to you because they want you to stand confidently in who you are, not necessarily tear yourself down. So I always say the Leo personified in this world is that man, Deion Sanders. I'm sure, like all of us, he's gone through times where he maybe didn't believe all the way or whatever, but he exhibits to this world the supreme Leo nature, which he's the sun and Venus in Leo, that is needed to, that you have the right to, like I said, to embody. So Leo types, be confident. And I would even say this. You don't need to be confident to the world. What I'm saying, you got to be confident to your partner. You got to make sure you're inspiring them. Food for thought. Virgo, another earth sign. So pay attention here. Going back to the idea of resourcefulness, and it's going to come up with Capricorn too. If you are unwilling to serve your partner in a myriad of ways. See, the thing is, remember, Virgo's the little things. So depending on who you are, you may have a Venus and Virgo in the 5th house. This is an interesting one. Venus and Virgo in the 5th house, naturally, because of the 5th house element, is going to want or feel entitled to certain things within the partnership. But maybe if that Venus is in aspect to Neptune, they're here to serve their partners, right? And there may be difficulty surrendering the ego to have to make sacrifices for the relationship. So I kind of give it to you in another sense. And this Venus in Pisces is naturally set to sacrifice for their partner. Venus in Virgo has to develop that ability, and that becomes easier based on how they've been conditioned. So the family they come from, the hard work that's been instilled to them. So I say here, like, let's say you get a Venus in Virgo aspect in Uranus, so this could be in the 11th house. Yeah, you might always attract people who, let's say, have kids and you don't. Or it's something that like, I don't like this, but these are the type of people I attract. Ultimately, when you, as Virgo, are unwilling to do that, you lose value, or you're not displaying the resourcefulness needed for the expression of the sign. Libra, another cardinal one. Unattractiveness when you allow, it's simple, getting right to the point. When you allow others too much access to you, you become unattractive. And to be frank, it becomes messy, okay? So those who really understand energy will know, and this is not no thing against Libra, it's just kind of calling it is what it is. because of a certain fickleness within them, or like I said, if they open themselves to too many others or the wrong associations, it's gonna come with certain layers of messiness. So Libra, kind of your what makes you more attractive is your ability to be socially graceful, yet have a layer of mystery to you. Everyone don't need to know your business. Moving on to Scorpio, who's ultra private and doesn't want anyone to know their business. And this is being exhibited right now. So I'm just going to let this serve as a lesson. You become unattractive when you become overly possessive, when you create power dynamics within your relationships, manipulation. This is something with people with this energy, it's a thing where like the opportunity might be there, but you elevate the energy by just not participating in particular dynamics, being more balanced or fair minded. Or like I said, just kind of scaling it back, allowing someone greater freedom where it's like, damn, really, I want them to myself all the time. Okay. Sagittarius becomes unattractive when they have no vision. This is a sign that needs to know where they're going. They need to kind of always, it's opposite of Gemini. It's a different type of salesman. They're selling you on life. So when you're dealing with a Sagittarius, they need to be providing you with a certain layer of inspiration. When you're around a Gemini, you'll feel like, oh, I'm learning something, or they taught me something. A Sagittarius at least needs to inspire you to live better, do right, teach you something in a more philosophical sense. So in another vein, when Sagittarius, let's say, I don't want to just make it morals, just like when they aren't moving with a vision, that's the best way to say it. When they aren't moving with a vision or consistently expanding, they can't help others expand, and ultimately makes them less attractive, All right, Capricorn. This is interesting, and this insight is based on practice and understanding and listening, ultimately. Capricorn, remember, is our type of CEO. You can look at Venus in Capricorn in this way. You ultimately never really know, but in a sexual sense, Capricorn's associated with like stamina, like a determination, right? Kind of mirrors success, desire, all of that. Capricorns can become unattractive when, let's say, their sex drive isn't overkill. But this can be represented in other ways. So let's bring in like 50 Shades of Grey, right? This is someone who had like a fetish for BDSM, right? That lifestyle. So on a smaller level, let's say a Capricorn attracts a partner who is just, their sex drives are not in tune with one another, stamina wise. That can make the person's out. They like to do it much more than I do. I remember I was thinking about that shit when what's her name? Larsa Pippen had said for all them years she had sex a lot. Like Scottie Pippen wanted to have sex a lot. Things like that. I think it comes with a power dynamic, but to each his own. Feel free to comment if you have any insight or experience with that. Aquarius becomes unattractive, particularly Venus in Aquarius, when there's an unwillingness to embrace traditional roles. And we can make this in the sense of being too unconventional. The fact is, goes back to Saturn and Libra, relationships thrive under structure and understanding, stability, commitment, business, things like that. It doesn't have to be that way, but they thrive. But ultimately, when two people are attuned a certain way, they'll thrive more than not defining or kind of being up in the air like Venus and Aquarius tend to be. So in life, you'll learn that like they're just like you play a role in your community or a group. There's a role there are roles and expectations of that in relationships. So that's a real key insight for Aquarius, I think should really ponder on. And we can make that saying being too rebellious, but at the root, these are the deeper reasons why that is an unattractive thing, At the same time, you'll find people that are in line with certain flows, but as I said, it'll come back to learning lessons about stability and roles and owning that role. Lastly, Pisces. We get to Pisces. This is simple. It's always the same thing with Pisces. Pisces has the greatest potential. So when you don't own that potential, when you aren't actualizing that motherfucking potential, when you are acting like a fucking victim, you are not coming off here correct. You are going to meet manipulators and people who are just not in line with the higher version of yourself. The fact is, Pisces has a propensity to get stuck in a particular type of ideal, which locks them into particular patterns that will be hard to get out of, whether that be career-wise, whether that be family-wise, or whatever. They may sacrifice too much of themselves. The best way for Pisces to come off is as a world savior, someone completely committed to life, not love and just romance. That love without work shit is dead, particularly for Pisces. So there's a lot of things that makes Pisces unattractive, but in a simple sense, is not owning your great potential. Because for every Pisces type, there's a talent there. There's something that they would easily or naturally do that they just might not have actualized. And until they get to the level of doing that, the relationships they attract will reflect that. All right. So I hope everyone enjoyed this. Let me know what you think. Feel free, chime in. Check out my website. Check out my book, Astrology in the Matrix. Check out my classes. I look forward to connecting with you all, astrotherapy and all that. Till next time, peace.